my name is Butch Witzkowski. I'm the director of U4COP, the UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania. And the term alien abduction, or the alien abduction phenomenon, is really described as subjectively real memories of being taken secretly or against one's will by apparently non-human entities and subjected to complex and psychological procedures.
And worse.
Yes. When I first started, it was quite accidentally that I got involved in this, where I was asked to speak at a conference on abduction. And although I knew about it, I really didn't know a whole lot about it, to be honest. So I, set about doing some studies because I had 2 months to get ready. And in the midst of the research, it just kind of hit me like, well, so how many people could be missing? And I tried to locate that. Unfortunately, there is no groups or databases for that type of abduction scenario. So I went on NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, and I saw that in 2008, 778,000 missing persons reports were filed.
That's amazing.
And approximately 95% were found. 75% of those are runaways under the age of 18, like, I can't have dad's car, so I'm going to run away. Another 20% came out to be spousal abuse, murders, elderly walkaways, ransom demands, etc. But what struck me was that 5% are never found, and that number came out to be 38,908. So I went back a little further, and since 1991, the missing persons reports totaled 13,861,000. Again, using that same math, 5%, 693,000 are never found. No traces ever located. No matter where you hear it or where you read it, it's always the same. There's a capture, there's an examination, there's a conference with the takers, there's a tour of the craft, there's loss of time, then there's the return. Some people suffer from theophany, which is, they have a oneness with God or the universe or the world.
Exactly.
And then there's the aftermath that they put up with for the rest of their lives. So they're interested in the cranium, the nervous system functions, skin samples, the reproductive systems, both male and female, cardiovascular systems, respiratory systems, the lymphatic system, and the abdominal lower region only. So, they're all the same. They don't change. In most cases, there's no way in knowing how many people are missing around the world because there are no databases. And I'm sure in the Middle East, where, people are killed daily by the hundreds, and the African countries, who knows how many people are missing? But we can only really find anything database-wise from the NCIC report. And the NCIC report is done by every police department in the country. I really started looking at the abduction phenomenon not only with the human element, but with cattle. In the middle 50s, the stories about finding corpses of strangely mutilated cattle began to surface in the rural southwestern United States, in the Four Corner states, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. And first, the authorities blamed the pharmaceutical companies who were alleged to be using the excised organs for research, and then the cults using the organs in rituals. And the strange thing about that was, which is almost the same as the abduction scene, is there's no physical traces, there's no footprints, there's no crushed grass, no tire prints, no imprints in the snow, no indications of man nor predator near the carcasses. And the wounds on the carcasses are 1 to 1.5 inch holes through which internal organs are sucked out. The wounds are cauterized by extreme heat. They're extremely precision cut, and usually missing from all the carcasses are the eyes, tongues, lip, jaw, sexual organs, lower intestines, and udders. And the cattle mutilations are not predator. I mean, if you look at a predator, an animal killed by a predator...
Well, they rip things apart.
Well, and then as I got into it a little bit, then I found that sheep mutilations in the United Kingdom, in England. And now, basically, the same exact thing that are done to the cattle here are done to sheep out there. Now, horses have been done here also. But, you look at these pictures of the sheep, and, they got the same holes, the same markings, the same organs are missing. And, the reports continue. I mean, through 2011, we've had reports in Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Montana, California, Oklahoma, Arizona, England, South America. So they continue. And then, that kind of led me into human mutilation, which was really hard to believe. And I thought, well, it's just some kind of internet prank or something like that. And So I started looking at that, and it really starts in the early 60s, where you get stories coming to the forefront of human corpses being found with the same types of wounds they find on cattle. And that was immediately dismissed as being in bad taste by ufologists. Absolutely.
Which is kind of irrelevant. If something's happening, it's happening.
Yeah, and it was just not to be talked about. And I've been told to stop, and of course I didn't stop, but some of the cases to date were, that we found, only one that we can, or actually two, that we can say we have enough evidence to say that that case actually took place. But there was one of a Sergeant J.P. Lovett in the U.S. Air Force in '56 who went downrange in White Sands, New Mexico, with a commanding officer to pick up some material left from a recent shot of a missile. The colonel that's with him hears him screaming and gets over a sand dune just in time to see him with something lashed around his leg being pulled up into some sort of a craft. And then a few days later, they find his body not far from where he was taken, laying there, and he's been pretty much done in just like a cattle mutilation. There was a case in Bliss, Idaho, cases in New Zealand, and then there's a couple cases which we just really can't get a lot of information on. There was a special ops military firefight during Vietnam where a group of special operations soldiers come across some aliens loading body parts into cases, plastic cases.
Wow.
The firefight starts, and hooray for our side, we win pretty much all the information that comes out. And then there's a B-52 crash in Vietnam where the plane looks like it has been set down in the jungle, not a crash. And when the operations team, along with a Navy medic who presents the story and photographer, gets there, they find the guys still strapped in their seats, and they're pretty much butchered the same way. The group that goes out there orders them to burn the plane, destroy it. We cannot find any evidence of a B-52 crash in Vietnam to date.
And a plane like that coming down in the woods is going to make huge amount of damage.
I mean, the cases just came to light a couple years ago, and, we're still looking for information, but the information is slim to none. But the two cases that really stand out, especially the biggest one, is the Guadaparanga Dam case in Brazil in 1988. The Guadaparanga Dam is located in right outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and a couple guys are out fishing on the lake, and they see what looks to be a body on one of the little islands, and it's a man-made lake. So they go out, and instead of going to check the body, they go get the police, and the police come out, and they bring forensic people with them. So they look at the body, and death due to massive trauma is what the autopsy report says, which we have a copy of. There's no signs of rigor mortis or livor mortis. Time of death was placed at 40 to 72 hours before discovery. There's no bloating or noticeable amount of blood at the scene, which is remarkable on no bloating because the temperature in that part of the country, that part of the world, at that time of the year, it would have been in the high 90s with very high humidity.
Well, then you would have ballooned in no time. Anything dies, it's going to happen like that.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the decedent, the gentleman, is found with the following were surgically removed: his eyes, left ear, inner ear, lower jaw, inner throat, and tongue. There are 1 inch to 1.5 inch holes in the following areas where muscle, tissue, and glands are removed: the shoulder, chest, navel, and thigh. Testicles were removed. Prostrate gland was removed via the urethral tube. The intestines were removed via a hole in the navel. The anus was cored out to the colon. The body presented no signs of bloating, which is remarkable. And there was no body odor whatsoever. The autopsy report, when it was translated in the autopsy report 7 or 8 times, I believe it was 7, there's the term vital reaction. And the definition of vital reaction, the actual legal definition of vital reaction, indicates a response of living body tissues to injury. By definition, it can only occur during life and is therefore an index of antemortem injury. This is of considerable importance in forensic medicine in A, attempting to establish that an injury was inflicted before death, and B, possibility of estimating the time of infliction before death. If you would take a dead body and stab it with a knife, all you're going to get is a hole, period. There's not going to be any discoloration, any marking, anything like that. If you stab a living individual with that knife, He's pulling, he's moving, he's tearing, he's trying to get away. So he's causing all kind of injuries around the wound itself, okay? And what it actually means is the guy was alive when the procedure was inflicted upon him.
Wow.
One of the things they find during the autopsy is when they remove the skull cap is that the trauma of vital reaction was so great that he had multiple hematomas in the brain of small blood vessels.
That's from extreme pain, isn't it?
Correct. If, like, say, a person would be crushed to death slowly, like they were run over by something, and there was no way they could get away, the absolute terror and the pain would just start popping blood vessels in the brain. And this guy's brain was covered with them.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
We are investigating another case we just got from England, and we just started that investigation just a couple of days ago. So I don't know where that's going to go yet, but from the person that's the researcher in England that sent it to us, he's pretty sure that we're probably looking at the same type of abduction, and although they haven't found the body yet, that we had with the Todd Cease case in Pennsylvania. If you're not familiar with the Todd Cease case, that happened up in Northumberland County in August of 2002 on Montour Ridge. It started with a missing persons report. The report was made to the Point Township Police Department on August 4th, 2002. The missing individual's name was Todd Cease, white male, 39 years old. On that date, Mr. Cease advised his wife he was going to spot some pre-season deer up on Montour Ridge. He takes his four-wheeler and he leaves. States that he'll be home by noon. At 2 o'clock, the wife reports him missing because he's not an individual that would not be there on time. Very out of sorts for him. Search is mounted by local police, state police, fire company. Mr. Cease's ATV is found undamaged along with his boot, which was found in a tree. No Mr. Cease. Searching cadaver dogs find nothing. The divers search a pond on the Cease property. They find nothing. Local fishermen see an object over the power lines and see something being pulled into it. A local farmer says he sees the same thing. The search resumes, and searchers find search is stopped for the day. The following day it resumes, and the searchers find the body of Todd Cease in a thicket of bushes 150 yards from his residence, wearing only his underwear. He has a burn mark on his left temporal lobe, and 3 feet away from him is lying a dead snake, rattlesnake. He has no snake bites on him. The snake has no visible signs of any trauma. He was not bitten by the snake. He is emaciated. He is pale. The only damage, like I said, was a temporal lobe, like a burn mark, black burn mark.
Mm-hmm.
The coroner removes the body to the Indiantown Gap, which to do the post. I trained at Indiantown Gap. There's no facilities there to do an autopsy. The body receives a second post at Allentown Hospital. There's no ruling on the cause of death. Foul play and trauma are automatically ruled out, so they wait toxicology. The ATV was full of gas. The key was in the ignition. It was on. It was actually off, but the key was on. There was no footprints in the ground around it, no marks of animals or any distress or a fight or anything like that. The boot was found up in a tree about 25 or 30 feet. They never found the rest of his clothes or the other boot, and that was a 6-square-mile search of the Montour Ridge that produced nothing. The family was not allowed to view the body. The body was returned for burial 6 to 8 weeks later. The cause of death came out as a cocaine overdose.
A cocaine overdose?
Yeah, Mr. Cease had no record of any cocaine overdose. Speaking with some of his friends and school chums, there was never any use of drugs. Matter of fact, he was prone to be a guy that walked around from morning till night with a can of Mountain Dew soda in his hand. So a lot of the issues with that incident were where are the missing clothes? Why was the body not seen during a search of 6 square miles, including the property, where all these people were walking around, including cadaver dogs and search dogs? And the body's found 25 yards from the pond, which was already searched by divers. How'd the boot get up in the tree? Why was the family not allowed to view the body? Why was the body taken to a military facility for a post? And why was there a second post? So, the issues continued. Where are the fishermen and the farmer statements? You can't find those. There was no history of drug use. Why was the body emaciated and not bloated due to the heat that time of the year? Why did the body show no signs of post-mortem lividium or rigor mortis or liver mortis? Why, after all these years, is this still an open case with the police? We've tried to get their report, and we were told if we kept bothering them, we'd be charged with harassment, and it is an open case. Now, in the state of Pennsylvania, as I'm sure in all cases in other states, when a case is open, the only reason a case is kept open because it's listed as a murder. They don't have an individual or individuals to go after.
But there's no